أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله. Respected brothers and sisters, welcome to another lesson of Riyadus Saliheen live from here in Darul, alhamdulillah. Today we'll be moving on to the next chapter from where we left off last time, and that is chapter number 199. And the name of the chapter is Babu Sunnati al-Zuhr, the chapter regarding the Sunnah Salah of Zuhr. And the hadith number is 1113, and it reads as follows. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال صليت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ركعتين قبل الظهر وركعتين بعدها متفق عليه. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is narrating that the Prophet, that he says that I prayed with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, i.e. next to him or seeing him, and I saw him pray, that he prayed 2 rak'at of Sunnah Salah before Salat of Zuhr, the Fard of Zuhr, and he prayed 2 rak'at of Sunnah Salah after Salat of Zuhr. Muttafaqun alayh, which means this hadith is agreed upon between both Bukhari and Muslim, so it's in the epitome of Sihha, if you like. It's extremely Sahih. 1114, the second hadith in the chapter. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان لا يدع أربعا قبل الظهر رواه البخاري. This hadith is being narrated by al-Mu'mineen Aisha رضي الله عنها وأرضاها. She says that the Prophet Muhammad, will you not say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, used to not leave out 4 rak'at of sunnah before dhuhr. And she emphasized by saying kana la yada', he never used to leave it out, which means it was an emphasized sunnah. He used to do it regularly. And furthermore, she is of course his wife, and she knows what he is doing at home, and the sunnah is to pray the sunnah at home. So she is very knowledgeable about what happens in the home of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so she is saying in this hadith now being narrated by Imam Bukhari that he used to pray 4 rak'at of sunnah before dhuhr. وعنها, another hadith, قالت كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي في بيتي قبل الظهر أربعا. In another narration, she is saying, in my home, in my house, when he was with me, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray 4 rak'at before dhuhr. ثم يخرج فيصلي بالناس. Then he used to leave the home and he used to go and lead the people in salah. ثم يدخل فيصلي ركعتين. Then he used to come back into my home, as in finish the Salat al-Dhuhr, the fard of it, and then go back into his home, and then he used to pray another 2 rak'at of sunnah. وكان يصلي بالناس المغرب. And then he used to pray Salat al-Maghrib later on. ثم يدخل بيتي فيصلي ركعتين. And then he used to, after Salat al-Maghrib, after the fard of it, he used to go inside his house and he used to pray another 2 rak'at. ويصلي بالناس العشاء. Then he used to pray Salat al-Isha. ويدخل بيتي فيصلي ركعتين. And he used to pray 2 rak'at of sunnah in my home. This hadith is inclusive of the sunan mu'akkada, the emphasized sunan of all of the salawat except for Fajr, whereby you see that she is mentioning radiallahu anha wa ardaha, that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray 4 rak'at before dhuhr, 2 rak'at after dhuhr, 2 rak'at after maghrib, and 2 rak'at after isha. This is how the sunan mu'akkada are in the salawat, the 4 salawat as we mentioned. As for asr, the salawat, the sunnah salah before it is sunnah, but it's not emphasized sunnah, it's a non-emphasized sunnah, which means you still get the reward of sunnah, except that if someone was to leave it, they would not become blameworthy or sinful. If they prayed it, they would get the reward, and if they left it, they would not get sin in that regard. So this is clear. Now, the reason why Imam al-Nawawi, who is the compiler of this book, he is bringing in a hadith on the first, he's saying 2 rak'at before dhuhr, and then he's also bringing in the narrations about 4 rak'at before dhuhr. It is to show that there is that difference. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray 4 rak'at, but there was the exceptional circumstance when he would in fact pray 2 rak'at, and so therefore it is evident that 2 rak'at is also valid, and therefore the ulama from the madhahib have said that it's 2 rak'at of sunnah before dhuhr, for example, is not upon vacuum, it's rather upon dalil and established, and so therefore that's why we say that the ulama of the madhahib, if they've made a decision and if they made a fatwa and if they agreed upon something, then it's respected and it's valued, and it's all from the Quran and from the Sunnah. That was the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha, 2 of them. Then the next one, وعن أم حبيبة رضي الله عنها وأرضاها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من حافظ على 4 ركعات قبل الظهر و4 بعدها حرمه الله على النار. In this hadith we're learning that the Prophet ﷺ said that whomsoever is holding on to and preserves the 4 rak'at before dhuhr and the 4 rak'at after dhuhr, and then Jahannam becomes haram for that person. This is a hadith of targheeb and emphasis and encouragement, whereby we learn the absolute importance of praying the sunnah of dhuhr before and after. The 4 rak'at before dhuhr are emphasized sunnah, and the 2 rak'at thereafter are also emphasized sunnah, and there's 2 rak'at of nafil as well. If someone prays all 4 of these before and after, then this is a big means of entering into Jannah by the permission of Allah, of course, and there is emphasis with that regard. We've said before as well, and I'll say it again, that when there is a hadith of targheeb where we learn, for example, if you do this, you will go to Jannah, it does not mean that if you do this only, you'll go to Jannah. It means that if you do this as well as what you're supposed to do with regards to the other fara'id. And this is again where we learn the importance of taking the sunnah as a whole and the Quran as a whole. Because if you just take this one hadith and say, if you pray these 4 rak'at before dhuhr and 4 rak'at after dhuhr, imagine someone just said, okay, I'm going to follow this hadith only. Do you think they'll be on the right path? No, they won't be on the right path. No. They won't be, because if they just prayed 4 rak'at before dhuhr and 4 rak'at after, and they missed all the other salahs, of course it's not the right path. Do you see? That's the point, is that when we say something will take you to Jannah, it means along with the other things that you need to do from the fara'id. It's basically connected, it's interconnected.
Is that not choiceable, for example, to just do 4 rak'at before?
No, we're not talking about that. What I'm saying, we're talking about, if say for example, someone says, I'm only going to follow one hadith, and just follows this hadith, and says, because this hadith says, if you pray 4 rak'at before dhuhr and 4 rak'at after dhuhr, you'll go to Jahannam, will be forbidden for you. That person will not be forbidden from Jahannam because he hasn't prayed his Fajr or Maghrib or Ishaa. So this is the and the point that I'm trying to make is, that's why it's important that you take the whole of the sunnah together and not just parts of the sunnah. When the Prophet said, alaykum bi sunnati, you must follow my sunnah, he meant you must follow all of my sunnah and not just parts of my sunnah. That's very, very important. Next hadith, وعن عبد الله بن السائب رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي 4 بعد أن تزول الشمس قبل الظهر وقال إنها ساعة تفتح فيها أبواب السماء فأحب أن يصعد لي فيها عمل صالح. Abdullah ibn as-Sa'ib, one of the Sahaba, is saying that the Prophet ﷺ used to, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray 4 rak'at before dhuhr, i.e. the fard of zuhr. بعد أن تزول الشمس, of course, after zawal. You can't pray during zawal because there's the makruh time. But after the zawal and upon the entry of dhuhr time, he used to pray 4 rak'at of sunnah before the fard. وقال, and the Prophet ﷺ thereafter said, he's explaining what the reason is. Why does he pray 4 rak'at of sunnah before dhuhr? So again, it's 4 we see here. So in the Hanafi school of law, when they say it's 4, they have many, many evidences for that. And this, we're reading some of them right now, or many of them right now. And then the Prophet ﷺ explained, وقال, he said, إنها, indeed this is a moment, this time after zawal and during dhuhr time, ساعة تفتح فيها أبواب السماء. It is a time of the day where the doors of the heavens are opened. And the people's actions are ascended with, and they are shown, they are brought in front of Allah. So he said, I would love that my actions are brought to Allah while I am doing a amal salih, a good deed, a pious deed. So we learn many things. Of them is that the 4 rak'at of sunnah is sunnah mu'akkada, you get ajr for it, but they have a speciality, is that if you are praying at that time, then Allah will of course be presented with your ibadah, because your ibadah will be presented to him at that time, and amal salih will also be presented in front of Allah. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها, hadith number 1118, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا لم يصلي 4 قبل الظهر صلاهن بعدها. Aisha رضي الله عنها وارضاها is saying that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to preserve the 4 rak'at of sunnah before dhuhr, such that if he for some reason missed the 4 before dhuhr, he used to come home and pray them 4 afterwards. So that's the meaning of emphasize. He used to always pray, and he used to hardly ever leave it out. That's why it's emphasize. Emphasize means he used to do, command to do, and also he'd only leave out exceptionally in rare circumstances. That is the chapter of the Sunnah of Salatul Zuhr. Now come to the Sunnah of Salatul Asr, which is chapter number 200, starting with hadith number 1119. عن علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل العصر يصلي قبل العصر 4 ركعات يفصل بينهن بتسليم على الملائكة المقربين ومن تبعهم من المسلمين والمؤمنين. رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن. Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib is narrating that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam exactly used to pray before Asr 4 rak'at, but he gives the narration that he used to do salam after 2 rak'at. So he used to pray 4 but 2. Okay, and he used to say salam after saying at-tahiyyatu Allahumma salli Allahumma barik Allahumma inni dhalamtu, the normal du'as. So according to this narration, there is 4 rak'at of sunnah before Asr, but it is with a salam in between. However, it is also established, and it is also jaiz, and it is also sunnah to pray the 4 rak'at with one taslim before Salatul Asr as well. This is a non-emphasized sunnah, of course. The sunnah of Asr is non-emphasized, nonetheless it is from the sunnah. Then وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رحم الله امرأ صلى قبل العصر 4. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is narrating that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has said, may Allah have mercy upon a man, a person who prayed 4 rak'at of sunnah before Salatul Asr. So you are, by praying 4 rak'at of sunnah before Salatul Asr, you have become eligible for the dua of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. How beautiful is that, subhanAllah. Prophet ﷺ is asking for Allah to have mercy upon you if you pray 4 rak'at of sunnah salah before Salatul Asr. وعن علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي قبل العصر ركعتين. So now Ali ibn Abi Talib, same narrator of the first hadith, is saying the Prophet ﷺ used to pray before Asr 2 rak'at, which means now he used to pray sometimes 4, sometimes 2, and sometimes none, and that's the meaning of non-emphasized. Which means that if you come into the masjid before Asr and there's, say for example, 2 to 3 minutes left, you think, well, normally I would pray 4 rak'at, should I pray anything at all? You can pray 2 rak'at still. So you don't miss out on the sunnah, because as we've learned before as well that if you pray the sunnah of the salah, then it also suffices for the sunnah of the dukhul masjid. If you intend both, that, oh Allah, I'm praying 2 rak'at of sunnah of Asr, but also Allah accept this also as my entry to the masjid. You can conjoin and have multiple niyat for nafil ibadah, for nafil salah, or for the sunnah salah. This is however not possible for fard salah. You can't say, Allah, I'm praying Salatul Zuhr and Asr together in one intention, please accept it. You can't do that. It's only for nafil and sunnah ibadah you can do that. So alhamdulillah, that's 2 chapters finished today. We're doing quick because we want to finish a few chapters. The sunan, the chapters of the sunnah salah. So sunnah of Zuhr we've covered, sunnah of Asr we've also covered. Now come to the sunnah of Salatul Maghrib, the sunnah before it and after it. Yes, there is also a hadith. There are in fact many hadith regarding praying sunnah before Salatul Maghrib. Okay, so of course previously, تقدم في هذه الأبواب حديث ابن عمر وحديث عائشة وهما صحيحان أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي بعد المغرب ركعتين. That we've already read before in the previous chapters, the Prophet ﷺ used to pray after Salatul Maghrib 2 rak'at, which is sunnah mu'akkada, we know. Now we are talking about the sunnah before Maghrib. As you know, also in Darul Ummah, after Adhan there is a 3-4 minute gap, or 3-minute gap at least, for if someone wants to pray the sunnah, out of reverence for these ahadith and facilitation for those who want to practice them. Facilitation, is that a word? Facilitating. خلاص. وعن عبد الله بن مغفل رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال صلوا قبل المغرب. Abdullah ibn Mughaffal from the Sahaba is saying the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said, pray before Maghrib. He said it 3 times. But then, why is it non-emphasized? Because he said, liman sha, whoever wants to. If the Prophet just said, sallu qabla al-maghrib, it would have become emphasized sunnah. But because he said, liman sha, if you want to, because he based it upon your wanting to or not wanting to, that means if you leave it, there is no problem. Otherwise, the Prophet ﷺ will not tell you to leave something if there was a problem with it. So because he said it's allowed for you to leave it, it shows that it's a non-emphasized sunnah. وعن أنس رضي الله عنه قال لقد رأيت كبار أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يبتدرون السواري عند المغرب. Anas ibn Malik is saying that I heard that from the senior Sahaba, companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those who are rushing towards the masjid, entering into the masjid in order to السواري is جمع سارية وهي الأسطوانة, is basically a space in the masjid, that they used to quickly try and make sure that they pray their salah 2 rak'at before Salatul Maghrib. Is also again this narrating this is from the kibar of Sahaba. So from the senior Sahaba used to also pray, which means to show, and we say senior Sahaba because senior Sahaba, and sorry, not we, but the ulama and the Sahaba, and the, when they are in narrations, and the concept of senior Sahaba is extremely important because it shows that they are most knowledgeable. They were with the Prophet ﷺ for the longest period of time, and so they know well and they know better. So that's why it's being mentioned. They used to also pray 2 rak'at before Maghrib. وعنه قال كنا نصلي على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ركعتين بعد غروب الشمس قبل المغرب فقيل أكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاها قال كان يرانا نصليها فلم يأمرنا ولم ينهنا. He is also narrating, Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik is saying that he is saying from himself that we used to pray at the time of the Prophet ﷺ 2 rak'at before Maghrib, after the setting of the sun, of course, we're talking about, when the Maghrib time is entered. So then he was asked to him, O Anas ibn Malik, did the Prophet ﷺ used to also pray? He said, the Prophet ﷺ used to see us praying it. He never used to command us, nor did he forbid us. But just previously, you've seen that the Prophet ﷺ commanded it. So that means that Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, what he's saying is based from his own knowledge. There are some ahadith which are being narrated by other Sahaba, and maybe that particular incident was not witnessed by Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, because every Sahabi is narrating based upon their experience and based upon their knowledge and their time with the Prophet ﷺ. And that's why you'll find certain ahadith which are from Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha, while others are not, or maybe different. We saw the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mughaffal radiallahu anhu arda is somewhat different, because he said, the Prophet said, pray before Maghrib, pray before Maghrib, pray before Maghrib, for the one who wants to. But Anas ibn Malik is saying, he never commanded us, nor did he forbid us. So it's different experiences based on what he saw, he's saying for the Prophet. Our job is to take them together, or not our job, but the ulama and the fuqaha, their job is to take them together and to try and give us a hukum based on that. So because there's some prayed, some he didn't, there are both hadiths on both sides, it shows that he wasn't emphasized. Sometimes he would pray, sometimes he would leave. That's why it's not emphasized. وعنه كنا بالمدينة فإذا أذن المؤذن لصلاة المغرب ابتدروا السواري فركعوا ركعتين حتى إن الرجل الغريب ليدخل المسجد فيحسب أن الصلاة قد صليت من كثرة من يصليها. Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik is saying that when we were in Medina, when the muadhin used to finish his adhan from Maghrib, so many people would pray 2 rak'at. It was a common thing. It's a practiced sunnah that if someone strange would come into the masjid, they would imagine that perhaps Salatul Maghrib was already finished because everyone's praying sunnah. But this wasn't that the Salatul Maghrib was finished, rather it's because they were praying the sunnah of before Maghrib. Means it wasn't just the kibar of Sahaba, the senior Sahaba that were praying, rather there was a lot of Sahaba that were praying the sunnah of Salatul Maghrib. And so therefore if someone wants to, you can't stop them. It's a sunnah and it's established and there is reward for that. So we finished now sunnah of Maghrib. Now let's come to, but we've already spoken before about how the emphasized sunnah of the 2 rak'at after is there. Of course there's also 2 rak'at of nafal after. Liman sha, for the one who wants to. Now باب سنة العشاء بعدها وقبلها. Now we'll come to the sunnah pertaining to Salatul Isha, before and after. في حديث ابن عمر السابق, in the previous hadith narrated by Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, صليت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ركعتين بعد العشاء وحديث عبد الله بن مغفل بين كل أذانين صلاة. He is summarizing here yes, the Prophet ﷺ, there's a question on YouTube saying that you mentioned the Prophet ﷺ used to mainly pray the sunnah at the home. Yes, he used to pray mainly the sunnah at home, he used to. But it wouldn't be completely impossible for the Prophet ﷺ used to also pray sometimes the sunnah not in the home. So this is not an impossibility. And so maybe, perhaps the Prophet ﷺ was praying the sunnah in the home of Salatul Maghrib, and then he came out and then he saw the Sahaba praying, he didn't forbid them, nor did he command them. Okay. Jazakumullah khairan. Next one, is Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar in his previous hadith saying that I prayed with the Prophet ﷺ ركعتين بعد العشاء, 2 rak'at after Salatul Isha. 2 rak'at after Salatul Isha I prayed, meaning the Sunnah Mu'akkada. And then he also said that there is also between every 2 adhans there is Salah, there is Sunnah. So this is a generic hadith which shows us, and which is also supporting evidence for those who believe in the Sunnah of before every Salah, including Maghrib. That Prophet said in the hadith that between every 2 adhans there is Salah, meaning between every adhan and Iqamah there is some sort of optional Salah, Nafil Salah, Sunnah Salah. Okay, Babu Sunnatul Jumu'ati. Now we come to the Sunnah of Jumu'ah now. MashaAllah, we're proceeding. فيه حديث ابن عمر السابق أنه صلى مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ركعتين بعد الجمعة. In this same chapter also we can use the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, in which he is saying that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, I prayed with him 2 rak'at after Jum'ah. So 2 rak'at he's saying here after Jum'ah. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلى أحدكم الجمعة فليصلي بعدها 4. As for Sayyidina Abu Hurairah is narrating that the Prophet ﷺ said, whomsoever prays Jum'ah, let them pray 4 rak'at after. Now we see that there is 4 as well. There is 2 as well. There is 4 as well. And that's why, for example, in the Hanafi school of law, we say that the Sunnah of after Jum'ah is 4. The Sunnah before Jum'ah is also 4. There is evidence for it. It's not out of thin air. It's not in the vacuum. And other ulama that says 2, there is also evidence for it. So all are practicing the Quran and the Sunnah based upon what they think to be the most authentic from the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان لا يصلي بعد الجمعة حتى ينصرف فيصلي ركعتين في بيته. Next hadith is from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is saying that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he used to لا يصلي بعد الجمعة. He used to not pray anything after Salatul Jum'ah until he went inside his home, then he would pray 2 rak'at. So there is also 2 rak'at, there is also 4 rak'at, and both are established. There is the next chapter which says that it is mustahab for one to pray their nafil and their sunnah salah in the home. Okay, and inshallah perhaps we can read through this quickly. Okay. وعن زيد بن ثابت رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال صلوا أيها الناس بيوتكم فإن أفضل الصلاة صلاة المرء في بيته إلا المكتوبة. Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu arda is saying that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O people, pray your salat, your sunnah salah, pray your nafal salah and your sunnah salah. So the name of the chapter is Babu Istihbabi Ja'al al-Nawafili fil Bayt. That is mustahab for you to make your nawafil in the bayt, in the house. So he said, O people, make your salat in the home, because the best salah is the salah, فَإِنَّ أَفْضَلَ الصَّلَاةِ صَلَاةُ الْمَرْءِ فِي بَيْتِهِ إِلَّا, because the best salah is the salah of a person in their home, except for the fard. The fard, the maktuba, is that must be prayed, is best in the masjid. As for the others, is best in the home. So nafil and sunnah and etc. is best in the home. So this is a hadith, and yes, and rightly so. If someone is going to be able to pray the sunnah in their home before they come and after salah as well, then let them do so. But if someone wants to pray in the masjid, it is also jaiz. We can't stop them. We can encourage them, say it's better for you to pray in the home, so it's to practice that sunnah as well as to encourage your family, but it's also jaiz. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اجعلوا من صلاتكم في بيوتكم ولا تتخذوها قبورا. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is saying that make some of your salah in your homes and do not make it into graveyards. Yes. Meaning that it is encouraging us to pray in our homes, and that is also indication that you shouldn't be praying inside the graveyards. You shouldn't be praying, the salah that we pray in the graveyard, salatul janazah, and that's it. And so this, of course, is a big evidence against for those who want to pray towards, a'udhu billah, I don't even know why they do stuff like this. They want to prostrate towards graves and they want to pray towards, I don't even, it doesn't make any sense, like even for a normal person, let alone someone who claims to have knowledge, to be doing sujood towards graves, or a'udhu billah, prostrating, even to say sujood is qillat al-adab ma'a sujood, yani. So on and so forth. We'll come to your questions because I know there's going to be a topic. وعن جابر رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قضى أحدكم صلاته في المسجد فليجعل لبيته نصيبا من صلاته فإن الله جاعل في بيته من صلاته خيرا. And Sayyidina Jabir ibn Abdullah is narrating, the Prophet ﷺ said that when one of you is finishes their salah in his masjid, then let him make some of his salah at his home, sunnah and witr and so on. Because he says, Allah will make in his home goodness if you pray some of his salah in his home. So there's a benefit of praying salah in your home. Many, many benefits. The attendance of the angels, becoming a place of dhikr, it becomes encouragement for your family, your wife and your children. It becomes a place of a way of deterring shayateen, etc. because they don't like the dhikr of Allah. Hadith number 1132 عن عمرو بن عطاء أن نافع بن جبير أرسله إلى السائب ابن أخت نمر يسأله عن شيء رآه منه معاوية في الصلاة فقال نعم صليت مع الجمعة في المقصورة فلما سلم الإمام قمت في مقامي فصليت فلما دخل أرسل إلي فقال لا تعد لما فعلت إذا صليت الجمعة فلا تصلي بصلاة حتى تتكلم أو تخرج فإن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمرنا بذلك ألا نوصل صلاة بصلاة حتى نتكلم أو نخرج. This hadith is basically emphasizing the importance of going to our home and praying the sunnah at our home, and that we should not when you give taslim from your fard, you should do some sort of dhikr or ibadah or something to disconnect you from that salah before you start into another salah of nafal. But the point is, because it is in the chapter of of making nafal in home, this is the meaning that is intended from it, that we should pray our nawafil and our salawat in our home. Inshallah, the next chapter is about witr, and there's a lot to talk about, and I think it's a good time to talk about it before Ramadan, inshallah. Next week we'll be catching, inshallah. Yeah? Next week is still before Ramadan. The following week will be in Ramadan, inshallah. So next week, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, if Allah permits and if Allah gives us health and well-being, we'll be covering the chapter of the bab al-hathi ala salat al-witr, the importance of salat al-witr and the methodology of it. Do our homes lose blessings if we're not actively praying and performing acts of worship at home in favor of only performing them in the masjid? Yes, you will be missing out on barakah and khair, like the hadith said, if you don't pray some salah at home. If yes, then is this a addition benefit for women getting greater reward for praying at home? Yes, it is better for women to pray at home. This is also in the hadith. From on-site sister, yes, so this is coming from the sister section. That's actually a very good way to answer the question. Very clever, mashallah. Well done to you lot for sending it on to the comment section, so we come straight here, mashallah. Jazakumullah khair. I hope that answers your questions, sisters. As for now the Mustalah, I've noticed something, that we've now covered, what it means to be hadith, for a hadith to be sahih and hasan and da'if, right? But then now we come into a section of some terminologies that you will not be interested in, and it will be boring for you, and you will not need, and it will not be beneficial for yourselves. And I've said some of them to you, for example, previously, and I saw people's starting to get tired and stuff. So I'll tell you what I'm missing out before I tell you what I'm not going to miss out. So I'm going to skip a few pages, inshallah, just because it's for practicality, inshallah. And then, inshallah, we'll carry on from a later part of the booklet. So what am I skipping? We've already understood what does it mean for a hadith chain to be disconnected. What is a munqata' sanad? We've understood that. And we've understood that there are different levels and different types of broken chains. Of them is mursal, of them is mu'allaq, of them is mu'dal, of them is munqata'. Okay, so what am I then in that going to afterwards jump and sort of miss out? I'm going to miss out something called tadlis. It's masking, some sort of a masking and concealing of some facts in a hadith chain, which is pertaining to students of knowledge when it comes to hadith, but it's not really going to be of much benefit to us as for who are not specializing in that. Also, what is a hadith muttarib? We'll skip that. Okay, we'll also skip the next section, which is about al-idraj fil matn, inserting something into the matn of a hadith. Again, we'll skip that just for practicality. Az-ziyada fil hadith, to add something additional into the hadith. What does it mean and how it works? Ikhtisar al-hadith, making hadith short and summarizing it. We'll also skip that. There's also something called riwayat al-hadith bil ma'na, narrating a hadith based on the meaning, no exact wordings. That's also something there. Inshallah, we'll skip that. Lastly, I want to talk about this. Al-Mawdu'. What is a fabricated hadith? A fabricated hadith is not a hadith. It's just called a hadith because those who fabricated it called it a hadith. And the only reason why one would learn it is to basically warn people against it and to make sure you don't believe that it's a hadith. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, whomsoever lies about me knowingly, then he's already reserved their seat in Jahannam. So what is a mawdu', a fabricated hadith? This is a narration where the narrator falsely attributes it to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, as being his words, intentionally lying upon the Prophet ﷺ. So what's the ruling? The ruling is that fabricated hadith is completely rejected, nor is it permissible to mention it, except that it is stated as mawdu', to say, guys, this is a mawdu' hadith fabricated, don't even come close to it, stay away from it. Okay, and there are many, many examples in that regard. So how would we know, how would the ulama know if a hadith is fabricated? There are a few ways. One is that the narrator himself says, I fabricated it. And this happened in the past where people were fabricating a hadith to say, oh, and the fadl of this fadl, the virtue of reciting this surah, the virtue of reciting that surah, this surah, this surah, this surah, like that. Surah by surah, they were adding virtues and they were making it up. So one such narrator was asked, as in one such fabricator was asked, why are you doing this for? He said, I saw that people are leaving Quran recitation, so I thought I'd make some hadiths up, decorate it a bit, make it seem like a, butter it up a bit, whatever. He said, he thought, let me encourage them. But he didn't, he committed a major sin, because lying that and saying that this is from the Prophet is a major, major sin. So one is that a person confesses that this is a made up. Another one, the hadith is contradicting the sound, unconcluded, and 100% clear evidences is contradicting it. Okay, so denying something that's established. For example, if you find a hadith that says don't pray anymore, we're going to say, of course this is a made up hadith. If someone says, okay, you're allowed to have relationship before marriage, we're like, this is completely made up. Probably some guy wanted to do himself, it's making it up. So it's based upon when something goes against something clear in the deen. And so on. There are other ways of knowing, and there are examples also that the booklet mentions. Now, why would someone make up hadith? Or claim that this hadith and make it up? There are those who are the zanadiqa, heretics. These are those people who wish to corrupt the aqidah and the belief of the Muslim, distort the ruling of Sharia. So there are some heretics who try to intentionally damage the belief of believers, so they'll add in hadiths and make them up to make Islam look bad, or Islam look nonsensical. And there are some examples mentioned here. I'm not going to go into that. There are also some who are called who are basically just, they want to be, they really want to praise and please the rulers for financial gain, political gain. So they'll make up a bunch of hadith, say, to make some sort of indication that this guy's good, and etc. This happens all the time. In history happens a lot of times. People are they want money. They have no caliber, they have no standard, they have no status. They just make up random statements to praise the Amir, and the Amir is obviously as stupid as the other guy. So he basically believes it, and he basically pays him money and says, okay, I like you, come close to me. There was a recent case where in one of the Muslim countries, there is one so-called scholar. He came and he was praising the ruler who was an oppressor. He's basically, he's a known oppressor. So this so-called scholar is coming and saying, this guy is like Musa and Harun. He came and saved us, like that. But this is obviously a bad example, and it's not applicable. But this is the kind he basically said that to please the leader, and to sort of get close to him. So that's also another category of people that may do that. Another reason why people make up hadith is storytellers. Sometimes, because usually the Sahih hadith, especially if the religious community is quite knowledgeable, they'll know the normal stuff, like the known hadiths are known. So what they do is sometimes to make the story more amazing and intriguing, they'll add stuff in. Oh, the Prophet said this and that. So that's another reason why they might fabricate. Storytellers, those who are the qassas, those who love telling a lot of qissa, they are also just to make people love them more, they'll make up hadith sometimes. And there are many examples. There's also another category of people who are the mutahammisun, ignorant people, and they have too much passion. They're so passionate about a project, a cause, a group, an ideology, that they will make up hadith to support that. So this is mutahammisun and muta'assibun. They have too much ta'assub. And then there is also mutahammisun are those who are extremely like passionate, and then there's muta'assibun, those who are extremely sectarian. They will make up hadith just to support, okay, our sect is the most correct, and they will make up a bunch of nonsense and pretend like it's hadith too. So these are some of the reasons why people would make up hadith, but it is a factor. And the only reason why someone would teach you what a mawdu' is in order to teach you that it is mawdu' so that we can avoid it. Inshallah, we will end up to here for today. Are there any questions?
Regarding the graveyard, so let's say you're around the graveyard.
Yes.
Time for salah.
Yes.
Can you pray salah there?
Yeah, of course. We're talking about people that actually go and pray towards the grave, and they ask the person in the grave to help them. Ajib stuff, majnoon stuff, Allah. So this is a big problem. We're talking about that. We're not talking about general, like, for example, there are graveyards. There is a graveyard it's the Masjid al-Nabawi, the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, and it's Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar. Praying there is jais, of course, but we're talking about people that actually go to a graveyard and pray there, inside there intentionally, to try and get some sort of tabarruk or barakah. This is not jais. Yes.
Just to clarify, in regard to the 4 rak'at for Asr Salah, the Sunnah, we said that Prophet Sallallahu used to pray 2 then 2. So just clarify, is it okay to just pray 2 if one prayed 2 within just pray the other 2 but something came up?
Yeah. So this is sunnah غير مؤكدة. You're allowed to pray 2, you're allowed to pray 4, you're allowed to pray none as well. That's the meaning of sunnah غير مؤكدة. But if you want to get the full ajr, you should pray the 4. Inshallah.
Sheikh, is there any hadith about praying before in Jum'ah, before Imam came into...
Can you please say that again, Ustad?
Is there any hadith about a sunnah prayer before Imam came into the member?
As in to not pray during the khutbah, is that what you mean?
Before khutbah.
Yes, so you should pray before khutbah, the sunnah.
Yeah, I mean, for example, we are doing, there are some narrations says when you come into the masjid,
You have to pray something.
you can pray as much as you can till the Imam come into the...
Yes. So there is narrations like that you should pray your sunnah and do your ibadah until the Imam comes out, then you should stop. But there is also, for example, some narrations where the Prophet ﷺ was doing the khutbah and a man came in and said to him, have you prayed? Why did you sit down? I told him to pray. That's why, but Wallahu A'lam, the stronger position perhaps, Wallahu A'lam, is that you should not be praying anything during the khutbah, because khutbah you must listen to attentively. And so it's better to avoid praying anything. It's better ibadah for you to engage in that which is the wajib and the faridah. And the wajib and the faridah is the khutbah. And the sunnah is sunnah. Sunnah is sunnah. So even if you measure it in that way, then the wajib would take precedence. And the fard would take precedence. Any other questions? Yes, brother.
When you're at home, you pray the prayers out loud.
If it's a fard salah, and the salah that you're supposed to pray loudly normally, then you should pray them loudly. In fact, it's better for you to pray loudly.
What about the sunnah?
Sunnah, you don't. The only thing that you pray loudly is the nafil salah, salatul layl, the qiyamul layl. Because sunnah, it's not from the sunnah to pray the sunnah loudly. Unless it's sunnah of tarawih, then that is sunnah, is to pray loudly. So if it is from the sunnah to pray it loudly, you're allowed to pray it loudly. And if it's from the sunnah or from the sharia that you should pray a particular salah loudly, if you're praying alone even at home, like Maghrib or Ishaa or Fajr, it's better for you to pray it loudly. As for Qiyamul Layl, that which is after the sunnah of Isha, the Tahajjud, you're allowed to pray that loudly as well.
You start to whisper it, though.
Sorry?
You start to move your lips, you can't just...
Which ones?
So sunnah prayer.
Yeah, of course, in the sunnah. No, so that's known, of course, unless if someone doesn't know, then even when you're praying your sunnah, you recite quietly, but you have to actually utter the words. You have to whisper it with a low volume, so you don't disturb others. But you have to still utter it, because sometimes some people think that that's a good point. Some people will not move their lips. There's no such thing as reciting with your mind. You have to recite with your mouth. Barakallah fiqh. There are some more questions, yeah? What do you think are the current reasons for people knowing and unknowingly sharing fabricated hadith during the present day? Maybe unknowingly. They probably think it's a hadith, and that's why. Maybe they've heard it from their, ustads or their parents, or there's some sheikh that they like, and they was carried on. They haven't verified. A lot of the times it's to do with ta'assub. Like, I've heard my parents said it, my ustad said it, so it must be true. But that's not how truth works. It doesn't work based on if dad or ustad says it. It's based on the sihha of the sanad. For person or someone already answered. or to lead people astray. Someone's saying people are making this hadith. Perhaps it could be because of that. Perhaps, but we should do like try to be a bit, try to be kind and say maybe they don't know. Udhr bil jahl. Maybe they don't know. Why does some masjid make dhuhr salah after Jum'ah salah? Make dhuhr salah after Jum'ah salah. I'm not sure what that means. Jazakumullah khairan. سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.